The unfortunate thing is like with that average age of pornography exposure being 8 years old. And quick side note, I was on the phone with the Diocese of Arlington in Virginia, and they said in their research right now, they see its first exposure to pornography is closer to 5 years old.
This is Virtuous Leaders, the podcast for based Catholics who will speak truth, do good, or die trying. Here's the show. You're 26 years old and you've worked for the White House, SpaceX, and launched Parent ProTech. You're clearly a magnanimous individual. How did you accomplish so much in so little time?
No, thank you. That's a great question. I think I feel very blessed to have had a mom and a dad who were always super supportive of me and also help put me in situations to kind of build on work ethic and leadership, public speaking, all of the above. And so, but I'd say at an early age, grew up on a ranch in Missouri, and so was on the farm all day, every day. We raised American quarter horses and got pretty involved in the American Quarter Horse Association. And I think that firm foundation of both being outside so much growing up, and also doing a lot of hard work and the responsibility of, the horses in the morning aren't going to feed themselves. They're not going to water themselves. Kind of taught me you got to get up and get moving to get the job done. I think that kind of really resonated with me, but definitely without my mom and dad and their support, none of it would be possible.
Giving young people responsibility at a young age is so important.
Yes, completely agree.
I want to get into what you're doing now, Parent ProTech. What is that, and why should we care?
Yeah, so kind of like you mentioned, after time at the White House in the Office of Management and Budget, and then time at SpaceX, had kept being approached by parents and teachers and administrators with questions that they had about technology, and really, really quickly realized that there was kind of that disconnect between what people kind of hope they know about all the platforms that our kids are surrounded by today and what they can actually be used for, or like who they might actually be talking with, or the type of content that they could be so easily exposed to, and started doing more research on this topic, and saw data from the FBI showing that there are over 500,000 online active predators each and every day. We saw that kids who spend 3 or more hours per day on social media face double the risk of depression and anxiety. We see that the average age of pornography exposure is closer to 8 years old today. And the list goes on and on and on of all of the impacts that tech, and I'd say unbridled access to technology, is having on kids today, whether it be through addiction or social deprivation, sleep deprivation, or attention fragmentation. And so Parent ProTech began really out of parents reaching out and doing a lot of this research, seeing the impact that it's having. And so our goal really became, what can we do to empower families to be more active and engaged in what their kids are doing online? And from there, as we've grown and worked with a lot of schools and churches and community organizations, we've built out student programming too, and student curriculum, lesson plans, and videos that students can watch and interact with, to help build healthy relationships with tech directly with them too. So really focused on the family piece, and then the student empowerment piece on top of that too.
I want to get, in a nutshell, for a parent who's interested in pursuing this, what are they going to get out of it? What is going to be the value added?
Yeah. So a parent is going to, when they join our Parent ProTech platform, they really get access to loads and loads of content across all of the tech that our kids are surrounded by. So whether it be gaming or device management or your Wi-Fi network at home, and adding extra layers of protection there to the apps that your kids might have on their phone or their iPad. We're doing deep dives on those, helping parents understand what it is, how to navigate it, what parental controls you can put in place, and how to put parental controls in place, and then diving into um, conversation starters as well. So really trying to help bridge the gap that we see so often with tech and families, and helping kind of build that bridge. And then on top of it, through our student programming that we have, there's video content that a parent can watch with their children to really build on these concepts of, digital citizenship, digital footprint. What you post today could come back and haunt you when you apply to your dream job or medical school. And other concepts, even diving into like cyberbullying prevention to identifying predatory behavior, and a lot of trafficking prevention material, um, things like that we see so often. And I think part of it is our team is keeping an eye on everything around tech that could impact a student, impact a child. And so we're trying to keep parents up to date with the rapidly changing tech world. That way they're prepared to navigate it with their kids and with their family and with themselves too. Because I know post-COVID, a lot of us are all way more reliant than we were before COVID on our phones. So a lot of these ideas and topics that we talk about, there's a lot of good reflection points for families too on creating healthier habits with what we have around.
I've been speaking on this topic for 7 years or so, and I've interviewed some of the biggest names in the field. I thought I found everyone until I discovered you. I'm very
Hey,
impressed with your work.
thank you.
But what I've seen as a challenge here is parents have so little limited time, at least that's their perception. And I haven't had much success at getting parents to consume resources. Now it
Mhm.
seems like your program is largely based on these like parent educational resources. What's your success rate with that? How would you address that challenge?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I kind of was hitting it too, of the current kind of stand or current position we're in of post-COVID. Even our attention spans are shorter, and we're also juggling a million different things. And so um I think our uniqueness on this is our video content is really high, very quick paced, um, high value in the same structure, platform to platform. Um, and so we're able to deliver it in a way that's similar to how you might be delivered content on social media platforms. So quick, um, get you the questions and the information you need, and then move on to the other million things you have on your to-do list. We're also building out an AI tool right now where a parent can just ask a question, and then it'll actually push out uh, either direct to the video and the spot in the video where we're walking parents through how to put parental controls or time restrictions on TikTok, to the step-by-step, like here's how you do it, just to be very quick and effective with the use of time. Um, and I think part of it too is um, the thing about a lot of content for families is, I think, especially with technology, is different buzzwords or different keywords are going to motivate a parent to consume content or not. My point being, one parent is going to have a question on TikTok, another on YouTube Kids, another on Roblox, and another on which phone to get their child. And so that was kind of the point of us building this on-demand library of content for families that's constantly up to date and in the structure that's really um, uh, easier for parents to jump from one thing to the next, knowing that the structure is going to be similar throughout, because we want to make it where people on their own time with whatever questions they do have, they know that they have a spot that they can go to with up-to-date information in different languages too. So we've got English and Spanish right now, and working on Arabic and a few other languages next.
So let's niche down to my audience. My audience is typically young Catholic parents with traditional family values, and
Love it.
they know that there's way too much technology and we need to reduce it, and we're not going to give our kids a smartphone right away. That's let's just say like that's the kind of minimum commonality. What are the most common questions that these parents have, and how would you address them?
I think we always hear one of the largest questions I think is like, what's one thing that I can do today? Whether my kids have a phone or whether they don't, or they have device access or not. Um, and it's really to kind of, and I know it's hard in the day and age that we live in of packed schedules and running from one thing to the next. But we always talk about one, setting a good example with our own screen time, because our kids are oftentimes watching our own interactions with technology too. Um, and so that's a really easy thing, a good reflection point. Because I know oftentimes I spend too much time on my phone when I should be really intentional with giving the people around me the attention they deserve. But the second one being, especially if your kid's a gamer, but taking a moment and sitting down with your child and actually trying to play the game that they're trying to play with them. Because not only are they going to make fun of you as a parent trying to play whatever game that 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 they love, Mario Kart, let's say, but it's going to be a fun memory for your child to look back on, uh, mom and dad playing with the son or daughter in whatever game it is, dressed to impress, um, or Mario Kart, but really being intentional and sitting down and interacting with your child with that game or watching that show that they really like. Um, because it also helps the parent too understand, oh, this game that they're playing, they have a chat feature. And so they could be approached by people through the chat feature, or um, there's language in it that they didn't know about that they now do because they sat down and listened, or sat down and played with their child. And so I think it also helps with kind of more understanding of what platforms can be used for, or different loopholes that might be exploited by people. But I think a lot of it that we boil down to is that intentionality with time, which is our most precious resource that we have, especially with our family.
Yeah. Or the parent can see how brain rot the video game is, or maybe even morally depraved, and then immediately confiscate it, which is what my parents did.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's a good way to learn more and then take action. And that's really our approach at Parent ProTech is, like, we want to help families understand the tech that their kids are surrounded by. We're not going to tell you your kid should not be on this platform, but I mean, my hope after they watch like our content on Snapchat is the parent is going to be like, oh wow, my kid should not be on Snapchat. Um, but we're really trying to be intentional to be that resource for families when it comes to tech.
Well, okay, that leads into my next question. I was going to ask if you have any direct recommendations. Maybe you don't have them as an official platform, but maybe you do personally, as you just articulated. So, for instance, the number one question, which is, I think, like deceptively formulated to begin with, but when should I give my kid a smartphone?
I thought you were going there. That's the hardest question, because to me it's more of a maturity question than an actual age. Um, and we could strategize and think of 100 different ways to track maturity and the right things that they do. And I have an interesting perspective because we traveled a lot when I was growing up. Um, when we were raising American quarter horses, and so I had a flip phone at a super young age, and which obviously comparing that to the power of this today is way different. But uh, I think when we talk to families, we always like to push them to looking at phones like Troomi or Gab or Bark, that have been built from the beginning with kids in mind. And also, one of the things that we love about Troomi is you can gradually give more responsibility to your child as they continue to age. So you can start out really making it only can make phone calls to approve contacts, or can only receive calls from contacts in the phone. And then as they age, you can open up messages, you can open up different apps, not social media apps, but you're able to kind of, as you build that trust with your child, and as they prove that they can handle the tools that you're giving them, you can kind of continue to grow that, which I think is a really cool opportunity. Um, I think we've never once in our presentations uh, to hundreds, thousands of communities, we've never once heard a parent say, "I'm so glad I gave my child a smartphone." Um, and so it's definitely one that, I mean, we always hear the opposite. So I think, delaying as much as possible, but when you do end up giving it, give it where you can kind of give more responsibility as they prove themselves and as they mature. That's always the way we recommend to do it.
Troomi sounds really interesting. So you said they don't allow social media apps, but they'll allow other apps like I'm assuming GPS or alarm clock or things like that.
Yes, and they've got a
Okay.
whole list of different apps. A lot of the platforms that have been creating the safe smartphone built for kids, none of them are allowing social media on it. And even like for me personally, I've deleted social media on my phone and only look at
Yeah.
it when I'm on my laptop, just because I realized how much time it was sucking, because all of these platforms are being designed to capture and sustain our attention, and they're so good at it too.
So one cautionary tale you share with these like filters and that sort of thing is there's always a backdoor, there's always a way to hack it. Is that the case with Troomi?
Um, from what obviously I'm only going off of personal experiences and the feedback we get from users that we talk with. Um, I know these phones that have been built from scratch, most of them are on an Android, uh, or an Android device, but most of them that are built from scratch, like Trumi, Gab, Bark, um, it's really hard to find loopholes in them. It's the apps that go on like an iPhone that we hear oftentimes have the back doors due to different API questions and issues with Apple sharing, um, some issues between the company that created the app and Apple, uh, with screen time settings and all that type of stuff. So I think always lean on like the device, um, I should say, we often talk about is you have to have multiple layers of safety and protection in place. So both at the device level to the network level at home, and then having a conversation with your child, because the unfortunate thing is like with that average age of pornography exposure being 8 years old. And quick side note, I was on the phone with the Diocese of Arlington in Virginia, and they said in their research right now, they see its first exposure to pornography is closer to 5 years old.
Jeez.
Um, and so the unfortunate reality is it's not as much if you're going to come across content like that, but kind of when. And so by having the conversation, it helps the child know, like, if they ever do see something, hopefully, I pray it's not pornography, but maybe it's an explicit ad that pops up on a game that they play on their iPad or whatever it is. But at least they come to you as the parent or the caregiver, to navigate it, rather than keeping it internal and then thinking that they're going to get in trouble if the parent finds out that they saw something that just popped up. Um, and so that's kind of our framework. But I think like we know so many stories about kids who had parents that locked down everything, and didn't give it any access, but there was no like relational piece, no conversations between the parent and the child. It was just iron fist saying no to everything, and how then that child works like crazy to find the loopholes in whatever it is that's causing the restriction. So we think if you lead with restrictions, they're always going to find any way they can to find a loophole. But if you lead with the relational piece, and at the very tip of the pyramid, let's say, are the restrictions you put in place, but the base is on the relationship, the conversation that you have with your child, kind of navigating that. That's a far better spot to be in.
I like that pyramid image. Yeah, and including maybe implied in the relationship is providing reasons. I mentored
Mm-hmm.
a young man who told me how much his parents helped him. They didn't give him a smartphone until he was, I think, 18. And he didn't give him any
Wow.
phone until he was 18. And he really
Wow.
appreciated that. And because he can see the destruction it wreaks on his colleagues. But he said what was helpful is that his parents gave reasons throughout. What are the respective advantages of Bark and Gab phones?
Our team just pushed out some updated material on our platform and then on our YouTube channel, kind of comparing the different smartphones that are
Mm.
built for kids, called the Ultimate Guide of Smartphones. I wasn't the one who did the most recent review and deep dive into both of those. The thing about Gab is you've got a parent interface, kind of a parent platform and it's rapidly changed, but to make a lot of these kind of changes and restrictions as the child ages, I think the Gab phone and the Gab watch, the smartwatch, are both really good for younger children. But then, and like I said, they might have updated stuff since I last reviewed it. But I thought it was harder for an older child, like middle school, for sure, high school, or to use it effectively. Whereas the Troomi and the Bark, it felt like a normal smartphone with functionalities that you would want. And so I always lean towards more of the Troomi and the Bark, just because in my mind, especially with like kind of our mantra for Parent ProTech is like we want to help families help their kids build a healthy relationship with tech, whether that be on their phone or their school computer or whatever it is. That way, when they do get to college or enter into their first job after high school, that they've built these habits and are aware of the consequences and the dangers out there and are able to use tech for good, but also are very much aware of the bad and ugly impacts they can have too. Um, and so I think that Bark and Troomi, especially with Troomi's features of, giving more access as the child matures, is kind of the way to go with that mission of let's build our children, or let's help our children to really use tech effectively because it's not going anywhere. And is only becoming larger and larger with AI being in the equation and so on that um, uh, I don't think the right answer is no tech at all, because I think at some point they're going to have unbridled access, and then what do they do with it?
Why would any parent in their right mind give their child a so-called smartwatch?
I know a lot of the argument is that's an easy way for them to call their child, like through the watch, or if they're like at baseball practice and the parent isn't there and the mom texts the daughter or the son that they're en route, then they can just tap one thing and say like, okay. And then GPS tracking too. It's definitely,
That sounds like a
I think
dystopia.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times parents are kind of going that route first before introducing a phone, but maybe sometimes not necessarily thinking. And here's what we see a lot is there's a lot of conversation on like smartphones and the phone component, but then we see a lot of parents give an iPad to a child or a
Mm.
smartphone or a smartwatch. And I think if we're not thinking, or let them have unbridled access to Netflix.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, uh, I think the big thing that we see, um, and that we would urge parents to think about is we have to have the same verdict and mindset with technology overall that we do with just a phone too, because that iPad connected to Wi-Fi um, has a lot of the same capabilities that the smartphone and can be used in a lot of the bad ways that a smartphone can. Um, and if you're not extra careful with the contacts that are saved in your kid's smartwatch, or um, you don't know who could be reaching out to them or what they could be exposed to and so on. And then for sure when it comes to like unbridled access to any rated movie, TV show on Netflix, I mean, I'm shocked when I open up Netflix on the TV and see the content that's just so readily available um, at our fingertips compared to what it was 10 years ago, and the type of language and the type of content that we're shown in almost every single movie or TV show out there. And so I think we have to think of these added layers of protection that we do with phones, that we do with iPads and the TV and the laptop or the games that we let our children play on their phone, if that makes sense.
Oftentimes there's promoted this sense of inevitability of getting a smartphone. And I just question that whole assumption. You know, there's like a magic, even parents who will delay for a long time. Like all of a sudden 18 is a magic number. Oh well, of course I'm gonna give them a smartphone when they're
Yep.
18. But guess what? Most 18-year-olds are not mature enough to use a smartphone well. Most 25-year-olds are not mature enough. In fact, most 50-year-olds are not mature enough to use a smartphone well.
No, I mean, I think you're right. And we do see a big rise right now in the amount of people shifting to dumb phones. And even kids lately that I've heard are wanting and asking their parents for these phones that really only have phone call capabilities, texting capabilities, and like calendar alarm, very basic
What would it be
features.
the basic example of that, the most prominent example of that?
It's called the light phone is the one that we hear a lot of people shifting to right now. Um, and I think probably though the biggest pusher of parents to get their kids a smartphone, I would say today is going to be the peer pressure that the kids get from being around kids at their school or in their clubs. Um, like once one kid in the friend group gets a smartphone, then there's that relentless questioning and asking, like, well, so and so has it, so why can't I? Or so and so is using it fine without any issues. Well, why can't I get it? And so I think with the cell phone discussion for sure, we think it's so important to surround yourself with families that like A, feel the same way that you do and also recognize the dangers out there. And then B, kind of band together and delay as much as possible. Or when the time does come, push the light phone or push an option that's different than what society and the rest of the world is telling us kids need to have.
How do you find that community?
I think, I mean, for me, I think uh, being a Christian, I think the greatest community comes from those that we have through the church. Um, and I'd say, um, in what we see, it's a lot of families that don't hide from the data and the truth in what we see with technology. And so I think, and then through school, you've got a built-in community of parents with kids in the same age range. And so I think we would push families to either get with parents at your church or at your school in the PTO, PTA, whatever it is that you call it at your school, and really try to band together earlier rather than later, obviously, to kind of find that community.
Yeah, it's tricky because whether inside the church or outside the church, most people are like sheep without a shepherd. So it's hard to find those people who are gonna not only share those values intellectually, but have the willpower to follow through on them.
True, true. Yeah, for sure, the willpower. And I think it's important for the church, which I think we've seen has been pretty cool as we work with more churches around the country. Um, is when you look at technology and its impact on uh, the faith of kids today. I think it's easy to tell that the algorithm and the type of content that kids today, when they are given access, or even back to the Netflix example, there's so much content being thrown at us from society that it's easy to kind of get kids focused on things that's different than the real priorities of life, faith, family, and so on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's been a very helpful intro to Parent ProTech. Love the little play on words there. Just figure it out as you were talking. ProTech. Anyways, thanks for
Yeah.
your patience with that. Honestly, I could just get enraged when I'm reminded of weak parents. But I want to shift to how you built the actual business here because it's very impressive. I'm just curious.
Thank you.
The website is really well put together. I'd be curious how you did that, and then also just what your business model is as a business.
Yeah. So on the last question first, we've got the platform built where individual families can sign up for $4.99 a month. That's access to our team if you have one-on-one questions that you have around technology, and then the on-demand library of resources going over everything that we talked about earlier, and the content for you to watch with your kids as well on your own time. Um, but we also work with directly with a lot of churches and schools. We're in about 5,000 schools and churches, communities today around the country. And so it's been cool to see God's hand in that. And so when we work with a school, let's say all of their parents get access to the parent library of resources. Their educators get access as well. And then the educators also get access to all the curriculum that we've built too. So we've got that K to 12 curriculum at the fingertips that they can start using in the classroom to help build these healthy relationships of tech, between kids and tech. Um, and so, and if they're interested, churches or schools, they can just fill out a form on our website, and we'll be able to reach out and kind of work on that. Because we also do like in-person or virtual presentations to families and church staff and leaders in different communities. And so, really trying to help um, shed more light on the tech problems today and how we can be a little bit more proactive in kind of taking this head on. Um, and then it's just been really cool seeing uh, the growth of what we've built initially in 2021 to what it is now, and the team that we've built. So we've got a team of 5 right now, but we're about to hire about 10 more people to help with our growth around the country. And then, but we've built people from some of the team is from Elevation Church in Charlotte to like we've got some people in Florida, adding on the West Coast now too. But bulk of our team right now is in the Houston area. Um, and so would love to be a resource to families that are listening, to communities that you're a part of, um, to really help. I mean, our mission at the end of the day is if we can help prevent just one kid from being cyberbullied or help prevent just one from being trafficked or help prevent just one from getting addicted to a screen, then we've won. And so anything that we can do to lean in and support families and communities in that's really what we want to do.
How did you grow so quickly?
I think a lot of people see or either see the issue with technology or hate the relationship that they have with technology and don't want that same personal relationship that they have. They don't want kids to have that same relationship too. I think also, like, thanks to Jonathan Haidt in the book The Anxious Generation, I think it shed a lot of light on the data and the stats of kind of being a good wake up call to a lot of people. And so I think as I think we're the team, everyone's incredible. I think we've been really good listeners since we started in 2021 of hearing the real issues and frustrations and anxieties that parents and educators have and that kids have too. And also a lot of our team is on the younger side who grew up in this kind of tech boom. And so I think we're also going at it from a lens of not a ban, restrict, no tech at all, but how can we kind of step back and look at tech as a whole and figure out, how do we leverage it in the best way possible while also cutting out opportunities for danger and for those ugly impacts it can have too.
Any particular business strategies or, breaks that y'all got that led to this growth?
I think having a bit of a policy background for myself has been helpful, just as a lot of states are putting more light, shedding more light on online safety. And so the state of Georgia passed the bill SB 351 last year that added curriculum requirements in the state to be teaching kids on online safety and digital citizenship. And so we just launched our partnership with the Georgia Department of Education a bit ago, giving every public school in the state access to the Parent ProTech platform in
Wow,
our
congrats.
curriculum.
That's huge, dude.
Thank you.
That's a great contract.
No, thank you. It's exciting, and so we've been heavy in onboarding Georgia educators and Georgia districts, and now they're starting to push it out to families as we enter into the new school year. But I think we're really trying to kind of lean in, and also really trying to meet the needs of different communities. But I think our unique proposition, especially when we do these larger like community partnerships, is really trying to meet the needs of the parent, meet the need of the educator or the church staff, and meet the needs of students, and really addressing all three of those different groups in a way to really help with the change that we want to see around technology. So that's kind of our uniqueness, I think, is being able to target both all three of those areas.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that would distinguish you from Protect Young Eyes, which I think is primarily targeted at the parents or educators.
Well, and we love, I mean, I think our mentality is I love Chris, and he's a wealth of knowledge. And it's going to take all of us, you, Chris, others, talking about it, um, to really get the message out there to hopefully see the change that we want. Um, and so I definitely think it's one of those a rising tide floats all boats type of
Yeah.
approach that we have to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, well said. Okay, last question. Just this technical one again. You recommend Griffin? It's some sort of like, actually, why don't you just explain why that is, why you recommend it?
Yeah. So, kind of talking about the multiple layers of protection. We talked heavy on like device being so important. We talked about having the conversations and building that relational piece. Griffin is a good option for your home network. And it's a device, a router, that easily adds those extra layers of protection to make sure that your kids aren't looking up things that they shouldn't, and it just adds a lot of great controls for the parent at home. So we have a whole kind of Wi-Fi series on the platform. If you walking parents through, caregivers through how to put parental controls on your current router system at home. But Griffin is another great uh, option that's pretty easy for families to kind of just add that extra layer of protection on your home network. So love Griffin.
Cool. Great. Well, thanks, Brock. Any last words for us?
No, I thank you again for having me on. I think the big thing with technology, I think right now is it can be so overwhelming, and uh, whether you've given technology to your child or you haven't yet, but it's still overwhelming. Um, but I also think that um, uh, like parents who are listening, I mean, listening and hearing more about the data and the stats is already a step in the right direction. Um, and I think the great thing about technology is uh, we always can make decisions and reflect and create a healthier relationship, either personally with technology or put things in place to help our kids have a healthier relationship too. And so it's a never ending process, but it's also a redeeming one too. And so I think it's all something, just a reminder of keeping up. And I don't think anyone feels like they have tech under control. And so we have to go at it as a community to keep each other on pace, but also help our kids navigate it as safely as possible.
Brock Murphy, thank you. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next time.